Hello to all the debt warriors listening, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. I'm your host, Katie Fata. August is in full swing, which means we're approaching back to school for kids of all ages. Whether you have children going into elementary, middle, or high school, or you yourself are getting ready to go to college, you'll need a back to school budget. There are many tips and tricks out there to help you get the best deals on all of your back to school needs, but you'll need a budget to get yourself started. Today, I'll be joined by returning guest Kim Cole. Kim is one of Navicor's community engagement managers, and she always has some great budgeting tips. Kim and I will be discussing money-saving tips for back-to-school shopping, getting your kids involved with shopping, paying for college with student loans and the FAFSA, and much more. Now, let's get to my interview with Kim. Hi, Kim. Thanks for being back on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's been a while since we had you on, so I thought we would have you back on to talk about some back-to-school budgeting tips. It's August, so people are getting ready to get their kids back to school, and if they're in college or getting ready to start their college careers, so I thought it'd be a great time to start talking about it. So you ready to go?
I sure am.
So I guess to get started, when should you start budgeting for your kids' back-to-school needs? I know it's kind of getting close to it now, but ideally, when would you start?
I typically start even from just my own family. Mm-hmm. I start budgeting right at the end of the school year prior. Okay. With the high cost of school supplies and the fact that so many schools don't have additional supplies to provide our children, so the onus is on us to provide it. I like to start very early because it can be a pretty high expense.
Yeah. So when you start early, how do you go about planning this budget?
Well, I first go and see what the needs are for that next school year. Our school happens to put a list up online for each grade and their school supply requirements. And many schools have gone in this direction. So that's the first thing I do. So I have an idea of what we'll be looking at as far as the needs go. So that's where I typically start. And then realistically, I just kind of start shopping small. I look for sales. I look for things like that in an effort to try to get things on sale, a bargain. I'm always looking for a bargain.
Yeah,
that's typically how I start. And that for the things that aren't on sale or have a higher cost, I write down how much those items are going to cost. I mean, having my phone is wonderful. I take pictures in stores. People think I'm crazy. I'm walking up to items and I'm taking pictures of the tag. And so I have a general idea right away about how much something is going to cost and how much I have to save.
Yeah, that's good. Compare and contrast. And do you ever wait until the kids start school before you buy some supplies to see what they actually need? Or do you just get everything beforehand?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
What one of the things that I have found over the years is that the list that is provided is often items that are either not going to be needed per se or not needed at the first week of school.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Typically what I have found in most cases is that items go on sale after the kids start school.
Mm-hmm.
So for certain technological needs, such as specialized calculators and items like that, I may wait a week or two and see if they go on sale.
Yeah.
That's definitely a good idea. And I've often bought the entire list, got to school, and the teacher provides a different list the first day.
That's true. That's true.
So waiting and just getting kind of the bare necessities for the first couple days is a really smart move.
Yeah. No, that's a good tip to save one good tip to save money on back to school shopping. Are there any other ones that you think you could provide?
Well, I do. I think that especially if you have multiple children,
Mm-hmm.
you really need to make sure that you don't have these items already and that these items cannot be reused.
Yeah, sure.
For instance, my daughter, when she came home from school, she had 5 folders that she had to have when we went shopping in September last year. Not one of them was used. So I'm kind of stashing things away, and we will reuse those. And it kind of gives me a better jump on the supplies. So I definitely find that. I also find comparison shopping to be smart. With online options now, it takes a few minutes, but you could really save money.
Yeah.
I also believe in generic. You don't need the brand name of crayons and pencils and things like that. There are the off brands that work just as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes sense, especially with younger kids. They might just destroy it anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I know you said you were gonna reuse some folders for your girls, and do you there might be some pushback, like they want new stuff, right? So do you think that's a good way to get them involved in back to school shopping? Kind of show them, all right, well, we're not going to pay for something new. We're going to save that money for something else.
I do. I think that it's a really good opportunity to begin to show the value of money and why reusing some of these items may be a good idea. So one of the things that we've done in the past, particularly if we're thinking about a vacation or something along those lines, when we reuse an item or get something that may be an off brand, I will take the money that we saved and put it in a jar. And that is our savings for just kind of fun things. And it gives my daughters an opportunity to physically see the money. It's tangible for them. But then when we do spend it, we go back to why we're able to do this. And we were able to do this because we reused items. We didn't shop in July and August for school clothes.
Yeah.
Because where we live in September, it's still hot and they're still wearing their summer clothes.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that we do. And for me, it's been a wonderful teaching tool for my children.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's such great advice too. So when you're kind of teaching them about, managing their money with school supplies and everything, do you bring them to the store to buy school supplies, or do you shop online? Which one do you think is better, if there is one that's better?
For me personally, I've done both. And if I want to not spend my mortgage payment on school supplies, leaving them home is best. One of the things that I've done is I've gone to the store and I've used FaceTime or taken pictures. And that way they don't see everything. They see what I want them to see. So if there is a sales rack of backpacks, because backpacks are very expensive.
Yeah.
And I know that even if the backpack at $100, my daughters will still figure out a way to destroy that backpack in the first 5 months of school. So I will show them only what's on the sales rack and let them pick from there. If I brought them into the store, they have radar that would take them right to the $100 backpack.
100, yeah.
So I tend to leave them at home and then take pictures or FaceTime just to let them see what I want them to see.
Yeah. What about online shopping? Do you ever do that for school supplies?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially working and stuff, right?
Oh, without question. I have found one particular major site really great because I'm able to create a list.
Okay.
And so with that list, what I'll do is I may jump on ahead of time and I'll put items on that quote unquote shopping list. And again, now I'm able to show the girls what I want them to see. Mm-hmm. And that way they can pick right from the shopping list and I'm able to then just click on it and buy it. Okay. So it definitely, I'm a big fan of online shopping, particularly, since the pandemic. I really became quite the savvy online shopper.
Yeah, right.
During the pandemic. So I'm very comfortable with it now.
I totally agree with you. So, talk about online versus in-store shopping. There's also something called the state sales tax holiday. Do you know what it is and what states offer it? And also, is it available just in stores or online? Do you know?
So I am aware of the tax holiday. I do know that the state of New Jersey is going to be hosting one of the tax sale holidays. I can't be sure every state that will be doing it, but it is definitely in a consumer's best interest to look into it. And basically what it allows you to do is purchase a certain genre of items without having to pay sales tax. And now certain states don't have sales tax, so it's not really relevant. But for those of us that do, you're looking at saving yourself sometimes between 6 and 7%, which can be substantial, particularly if you're getting something on sale as well. And so the tax holiday does just that. It allows you to shop without worrying about the taxes that you would normally pay. Now, online, I have to be honest with you. Because this will be the first time I've truly experienced a school supply tax holiday. Right. I'm not exactly sure how that will work online, particularly because I don't know if it has to do if the tax holiday will apply to your local online store, or is it going to be where the company is based? Right. Okay. So online, it can be a little more tricky. So, but definitely check it out.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of it if they have it in your state where you are. The state sales tax holiday is something that's provided to help you guys save money on back to school needs. So that will help show your kids there are options out there to help them financially obtain what they need. So eventually, student loans will be something they need to further their education and help them become successful. But it can also help them save money in kind of a similar way. So to segue kind of to preparing to go back to school for college kids, why is it important for a student to understand their student loans before they kind of sign them?
One of the largest debts that we see in the financial counseling, credit counseling industry is the financial loan debt. And I just worked with a client who went to prestigious but not Ivy League school in the Washington, D.C. area and is graduating with their bachelor's degree with almost $100,000 worth of student loan debt. Yeah. And for many, it makes the difference between being able to afford to live on their own or paying their student loan debt. So understanding how the student loans work, understanding interest and how that's going to play a role, and the different options that will be available upon graduation or leaving school. All of that is critical knowledge when entering college. It really it can make the difference between which school you choose, depending on how much debt you want to accumulate.
Yeah. And I think it's important. You said they need to understand their student loans, but for an 18-year-old, I feel like they could be so confusing and complicated to understand. So do you have any advice on how a student can better make sense of these loans?
Absolutely. First of all, there are some wonderful websites. The same website in which you apply for the FAFSA, which we'll talk about, is it's a government student loan website. They give wonderful information on understanding student loans. I also strongly suggest speaking to your guidance counselor. We typically use our guidance counselor to help guide us on which schools to apply to and which schools to choose. But they can also guide us on student loans and understanding how they work. And I think that's often an untapped resource that many students do have. And also, of course, reaching out to a financial counseling organization like Navicor Solutions, where I know I'm more than happy to discuss student loans with a student that is considering taking out those loans.
Yeah. And, we obviously have such great resources on the website about student loans, so I'll make sure to put them in the description of this podcast as well. So you kind of touched on this earlier about the FAFSA. How can students apply for it, and maybe what exactly is it?
So the FAFSA essentially is an application in which you apply for federal student loans. It is by far the most important application that you will fill out prior to your starting college. The federal student loans are the best option for funding your college career. So this is the application, and this application will serve to apply for all of the different grants and student loans that are available from the federal government. You do it right online. A student will do it with their parents because their parents' information is really what the FAFSA is looking at. It's looking at the income, tax, what they're putting on their tax returns, all that kind of good stuff.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It is super important to apply for the FAFSA, just so you are probably going to need student loans for college. So it'll definitely help. And then you might get money from the FAFSA. So it's definitely important. And I could put that link in the description of the podcast as well, if anybody needs to get it there. So when we finally get to college and we're getting ready to go to college, what are some ways to save money on college school supplies?
I will never forget when I started college, and the first thing I did was walk into the college bookstore, and one of my textbooks was $200. And we're going back quite a long way.
I was going to say that textbook now might be like a lot more money.
Absolutely. We're going back over 20 years. So, I was not prepared for that cost.
Yeah.
Now, that same textbook at the time I could get used for $100. Now, in my mind, why on earth would I want a used textbook? Somebody pointed out that it's probably already highlighted and it's probably got notes in the margins, and that would mean less work for me.
Yeah.
One of the things that we are seeing now, as opposed to 20 years ago, are the opportunity to download textbooks.
Right.
So they're digital now, and that can be a great savings. Something I strongly recommend. And you have options which didn't exist when I was in school. You have the college bookstore, but you also have Amazon, and you also have Barnes and Noble, and you also have other retailers that can provide these textbooks at a possible lower cost as well as the digital versions. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is such a, what you said about the used textbook, and and honestly, like from my experience, you don't use textbooks that much. And I think that's another thing. I would wait until I started school to buy my textbooks, because sometimes I wouldn't touch my textbooks at all for some of my classes. So I would definitely wait till you get there too with the textbooks and see how your professor is and everything before you buy the books. That's my advice.
Absolutely. And
wait.
One of the things I did too, again, I keep going back to textbooks, but my college would have a buyback program.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think mine did too. Yeah.
Yes. And I would look at these books and I would think, I am never using this book
right.
again.
No.
And I would sell it back and I would bank the money. And that would be part of the money that I would use for the next semester.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't cover everything, of course, and I didn't make 100% of my money back, but I had more than with what I started with. So it's definitely something to look into as well.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So another part of paying for college is if you're planning on living on campus. So how can you supply everything for your dorm room on a better budget?
One of the major mistakes that incoming freshmen make is that they go nuts with everything they think they're going to need to move into a dorm room.
Yeah.
Realistically, you should go in with the basics. You're going to need sheets. You're going to need a blanket. But do you need a full comforter set, and do you need tapestries to hang on the wall, and a full set of pots? I mean, I think that realistically, what you should do is get the bare necessities, get a few towels, get some bedding, and then see what it is that you really do need when you get there.
Yeah.
We live in a world where there are big box stores on every corner, and deliveries can come within a day or two.
Yeah.
So I think that less is more when you're first starting out.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And also see what your dorm allows, because you're not allowed to have a lot of stuff in your dorm room. So you don't want to spend extra money on something you can't even have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember a kid having a hot plate in his room and ended up getting fined.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yes, definitely.
Not only did they take it, but then they fined him for it. So it really, depending on the school, depending on the dorm setup, you may find that not only do they not allow it, but that halfway down the hallway, you have a full kitchen.
Right, exactly. Or you have the dining hall or whatever. So, yeah, definitely. So, when they're finally in school and they're all moved into their dorms, why is it important for the college student to have a budget? And then how can they go about making one if they don't have necessarily an income coming in? How do they budget what they have?
So, one of the toughest things to do is budget when you just have a pot of savings and not a constant flow of income. So, one of the things that I strongly recommend is utilizing everything that is available to you on a college campus. You'd mentioned the dining hall. Realistically, you should not have to go food shopping on a regular basis. That is, utilize that. You have your dining plan. Take advantage of everything that it offers. And so that's where I strongly recommend the budget start.
Right.
Is, take a look at what's available to you first. Then once you're utilizing everything that's available to you, track your expenses for a little while. Write down everything you are spending your money on. And that'll give you an idea of how much it costs to be you as a student. You may find that, wait a minute, I did not need to go to the grocery store to buy, a huge box of ramen noodles and
Yeah.
Keurig cups.
Right.
Like, you may find that you spent money on things that really you could have done without. And then from there, establish your budget. Establish how much you're willing to spend kind of in each spending category. And try your best to stick to it.
Yeah, always stick to the budget. I definitely agree. So once you've created your budget and you see you might want some extra cash, how can a college student make extra cash, extra money while they're in school?
So oftentimes, financial aid packages come with programs in which you work on campus,
Yeah.
which is great because you really don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
But if that's not an option, I have seen college students do everything from tutoring younger kids, as well as if they're an excellent student, other college students. But again, I mean, most colleges are located in an area where there is an abundance of resources for students, such as different stores and restaurants and things like that. Absolutely look into part-time work.
Yeah.
I think that part-time work, not only is it good because if you maintain that work, it looks good on your resume, but also having that flow of money, having something coming in is important. And then I always recommend, if you're not in school over the summer, working full-time.
Agreed.
There's no reason not to be working full-time over the summer.
Yeah. So, if you are working full time over the summer, that gives you a lot of extra cash to save. So would that be possible for a college student to save while they're in college? Should they save their work fund? Can they save while they're in college? What do you think?
I think savings is the best thing that you can do. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that if they can bank as much money as possible at graduation time, they're going to be really happy that they did it. If they're not using it for monthly expenses, I think that, that is going to be a really good option. And if you could, if you can save even just half of what you're making during the school year, and keep your with your summer, try your best not to go too crazy with the money that you're making.
Yeah.
Sometimes your first full-time job feels like it's so much money. Honestly, as we all know, it's usually not that much money, and it will go fairly quickly.
Right.
So again, I recommend a bank account where they can be putting at least 50% of their checks in there, and then have some walking around money.
Yeah, I think agreed with definitely saving during the summer, especially because you're going to be at your parents' house most likely. So you could save on everything else. There's no need to spend a crazy amount of money. So this is a great time to save. And especially when you hit graduation too, you're going to be glad you stayed because you've been living on your own for so long. Like, you might want to move out and do something else. So you're going to need that money. So definitely,
and, the thing that it just made me think of is that when we graduate high school, the first thing everybody wants to do is get a car.
Oh, yeah.
By taking on that expense, particularly if it requires payments and full insurance coverage, you'll find yourself working to pay for your car. And that becomes old really fast.
Yeah.
So, I recommend that early on, considering what you're getting yourself into, and and look at the commitment that you're making for a car, not for an apartment, not for for a car.
Yeah.
So, I'm particularly because a lot of campuses will not allow you to have a car on campus the first 2 years.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. For it to sit in your parents' house, and not.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You can't even probably bring it till around maybe sophomore, probably junior year. And then how much are you going to be using it? Especially if you're living close to campus. So I definitely agree that you might want to save by not doing that. Yes. So thank you, Kim, for joining me today and talking about all things back to school, from little kids to college kids. I think we covered all the bases. So thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Katie. I do enjoy coming on to your podcast so much. So thank you.
Yeah, it's always such a pleasure. Of course, we will definitely have you back on again in the future.
Oh, thank you. I look forward to it.
Back to school is approaching very quickly, and if you haven't purchased everything you need, don't panic. Have the basics ready for your early days back, and then you can determine what you really need. This tip works for both kids going into regular school and students headed off to college. Have the necessities ready for your kids to go to school, and then see what their teacher says they really need. As for college kids, wait until you go to class before buying any textbooks. Your professor will be able to let you know how frequently the textbook will be used, if at all. Get your kids involved in back-to-school shopping by teaching them about budgeting and money management. Show them the value of money by explaining if they use a backpack from last year, the money that's saved could go towards a big vacation in the future. Take advantage of the state sales tax holiday if it's available in your state. This day or days allows you to shop without paying taxes on your back-to-school items. You'll be able to save a good amount of money on these days. If you're headed to college, make sure you understand your student loans before you sign anything. There are a ton of helpful resources out there that can break down your student loans so you can understand all of the loans you're taking on. You can also reach out to your high school guidance counselor for help with your student loans. It's also important to fill out the FAFSA before heading to college. This is the free application for federal student aid, and it determines your eligibility for student financial aid. Fill this application out with your parents before heading off to college. While you're in college, it's important to have a budget, even if you don't have a steady stream of income coming in. Track your expenses and determine if there's places that you're wasting money. If you're working during college or during your summer break, save as much of that money as possible. Saving while you're in college will be very helpful to you once you've graduated and you have to pay back your student loans. Having that savings will also allow you to move out of your parents' house sooner rather than later. With that being said, that wraps up another episode of Millennial Debt Domination. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate and review us there. I'll talk to you next time, Millennials, Gen Zers, and everyone else listening. Bye.